Smyczia, a continent of ancient forests and towering peaks, fertile valleys and wind-swept plains. A land divided, kingdoms rose and fell like the seasons, alliances shifted like desert sands. In the west stood the proud Kingdom of Smyczki. King Darius, wise and just, ruled from the throne of his ancestors. In the east lay the Procneran Empire, whose legions struck fear across the land. Emperor Warjan the Hammer, an unmatched warrior, held power. And in the south, under the scorching sun, stretched the Empire of Branieli. Emperor Nabranielos the Fair, cunning and ambitious, sought even greater power. These were the great powers of Smyczia. But countless smaller kingdoms, duchies and free cities adorned this land. Each jealously guarded its independence. Each eyed its neighbors with suspicion. This was a land ripe for conflict, a land on the brink of chaos. From the distant east, the wind carried whispers, tales of a new power, a wave of iron and fury, the horde of the Furks. They came from the vast and barren continent of Kościa, a land of endless steppes and merciless skies. They were a nomadic people hardened by centuries of wars. Their warriors were clad in skins and furs, their faces wild and ruthless. They lived for battle, breathed conquest. At their head stood Madrox the Mighty, conqueror of the East. He was a giant with eyes like shards of ice, a ruthless leader driven by an insatiable hunger for power. He united the scattered tribes of Kościa under his iron fist. Now he looked west, his gaze fixed on the rich and divided lands of Smyczia. The storm erupted without warning. The horde of Furks swept through the eastern borders of Smyczia like a wave of fire and blood. Smaller kingdoms, unprepared for such fury, crumbled before them. Their armies, outnumbered and outmatched, scattered to the four winds. Their cities were plundered and burned. Their people were slaughtered or enslaved. Whispers turned into screams. Fear gripped the hearts of the people. The horde of Furks fought with terrifying ferocity. They showed no mercy, sparing no one. They were like an unleashed force of nature, leaving only devastation in their wake. The Procneran Empire was the first to face the wave. Emperor Warjan the Hammer, always eager for battle, marched east with his legions. Two armies clashed on the fields of Jarzomia in a battle that shook the foundations of Smyczia. The battle raged for many days. The ground trembled under the hooves of thousands of horses. The sky turned red with the blood of the fallen. The Procneran legions, disciplined and well-equipped, fought with the courage of wolves cornered. But the Furka Horde, driven by wild fury, seemed unstoppable. The Furka Horde tore through the Procneran Empire, killing everyone they encountered. The ruler of the Kingdom of Smyczia, seeing this, decided to send his troops to fight to stop further conquests by the Furka Horde. To the south, the Braniel Empire watched with growing concern. Emperor Nabranielos I, a pragmatist, knew he could not ignore this threat. If the Procneran Empire fell, his lands would be next. He marched north, and his legions joined the fight. With the advancing armies of the Kingdom of Smyczki and Branieli, the horde of Furks began to weaken. From the south, it was harassed by attacks from the Borg tribes, and the people began to rebel against Madrox I. Eventually, the horde of Furks capitulated. Their territories were reduced and new states emerged on these lands like mushrooms after rain. The Procneran Empire, the Kingdom of Smyczki and Branieli were exhausted by the war, but it finally came to an end. As if Kościa himself blew the trumpet. When the dust settled, a new era began. New nations appeared on the once divided continent, each with its destiny to forge, like the hussars charging to glory. The scars of war remained, but the spirit of these empires, like Damascus steel, shone brightly. Leaders met to draw new borders, and the signed treaties were to ensure a fragile peace, like a widow after losing her husband. The Procneran Empire, though weary, found strength in unity, like the Polish nation in times of trial. The Kingdom of Smyczki, bravely defending its lands, began rebuilding, like Warsaw after the uprising. Branieli, pragmatic as always, turned to innovation and progress, like young scientists from the Warsaw University of Technology. The Borg tribes, now allies, brought new cultural exchange, like pierogi ruski on the Christmas Eve table. Finally, the continent stood on the brink of a new chapter, a chapter full of hope, cooperation, and the promise of a better future. The sacrifices were not in vain, like blood shed for the homeland. The lessons learned were to lead these nations forward, together like a polonaise at a prom. The dawn of new nations brought a fragile peace, but not everything was to remain calm. The exhausted and weakened Kingdom of Smyczia soon found itself under siege by the aggressive State of Kopeci. Despite desperate attempts to seek help from the Procneran Empire and the Kingdom of Braniel, Smyczia fell. Now, under the harsh rule of Kopeci, the people of Smyczia faced years of persecution and struggle, yet their spirit remained unbroken. They vowed to regain independence no matter the cost. Like the Warsaw insurgents, they were ready to fight for freedom. The audacious attack by Kopeci on Smyczia did not go unnoticed. Enemies emerged from every corner of the continent. The Procneran Empire and the Kingdom of Braniel pledged unwavering support to the people of Smyczia. Together, they were to fuel numerous uprisings, each bringing them closer to freedom. Like the hussars charging at the enemy, they too went into battle. The fires of rebellion ignited, and the continent held its breath. A new chapter of resistance and resilience began, promising that the fight for freedom would never be in vain. The people of Smyczia, supported by their allies, were to rise like a phoenix from the ashes, determined to forge their destiny. Just as the Poles once triumphed at Grunwald, so too would they achieve victory. The struggle for freedom had only just begun, and the spirit of Smyczia shone brighter than ever, like the lighthouse in Justania, being a beacon of hope for all who yearned for justice and independence.